Hey guys, welcome back to See You on the Other Side. I'm your co host, Leah, and I'm here with Christine, obviously, and a new person, Alexa
Yes.
Silvaggio, Savage.
Which we
Yeah.
just found out it means savage in Italian, which is badass as fuck.
Oh my God. You're pretty savage. It's pretty awesome. Alexa, hi.
Hi. I'm really honored to be speaking with you both. And again, I got on this call and was immediately drawn to the profound art behind you. So shout out to those artists, but mostly thank you for creating a beautiful space to have meaningful conversations.
This is a really good trippy room too.
Yeah,
This
it
is a
is.
great room to microdose and little macrodose in.
Yeah. So this is
Wow.
random. This is random, but when finding people to interview, I say that there are tadpoles and then there are frogs. And you were one of the frogs. So when you agreed, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I got a frog."
I'm a ribbit. I'm a ribbit over here. I'm here for it.
Little savage little frog.
Savage little Italian frog.
So I want to let our listeners know what you do, because you do so much, and there's so
Yeah.
many ways we can go about this. But maybe I'll just plug you for a little bit. Can I plug you? Like what I know about
Plug,
you?
plug me up, girl.
Okay, so you have an amazing Instagram presence. Like the things that you share, the things that you post, I'm like, yes,
Her reels.
yes,
Yeah.
your reels are so spot on in the healing space and in the spiritual space. And you do a really good job of kind of balancing between not being too woo and being just woo enough. I love
Thank you.
that.
Good, that's the goal.
I love that because woo scares people. Like I had a conversation with one of my clients the other day and she wrote it on a post-it note in my room. It says, sometimes I have to hide my woo. And I was like, yes, I do have to hide my woo. And I don't like to, but I do. And then
Totally.
you just did a TEDx talk, which was incredible. So we're going to put that in there and for our listeners to check out. And you also have a chocolate, I don't even know what to call it because it's not just chocolate. Can you tell us what that is? What Ritch Ritual is?
Yes, totally. So I created Rich because I was a yoga and meditation teacher for years. And I found that it was all presence and all mindfulness on the mat or on the yoga or on the meditation, cushion. And then we'd all get off the mat or off the cushion and it was like we were bypassing our life. Like um we were not present for the moments. I do believe wholeheartedly that a meaningful life is making the mundane meaningful because that's really what we're doing every day, right? Like savoring a kiss or a bite of chocolate or like petting your dog. These are the moments that at the end of our life, which am very clear on, particularly after watching my mother die, that those moments are really the moments that we long for. Like, yes, the crescendos are incredible, but the mundane is really powerful and potent and cultivates a life of meaning. And so I wanted to create a scalable product that would teach what I was teaching on the yoga mat, on the cushion, but in something that we potentially do all the time. And for me, I had such a mess around food that I wanted to make it a message. And so I was severely anorexic in college, never gave myself permission for pleasure. It was just like chocolate was out, all of it, like anything other than vegetables pretty much was out. And so I was like, okay, this is a cool tool to teach people mindfulness and conscious pleasure through my packaging. And then also create a really delicious, sustainable, organic, paleo, vegan chocolate bar that's delightful, right? So the back of each bar has a QR code that leads to a mindfulness practice. It's only 2 minutes, so you can do it anytime, anywhere, but each flavor has a specific practice that correlates with the flavor. So like we have a lavender chocolate, so that's a down regulation practice. It's about calming the nervous system. We have a mint chocolate, which is more about like energizing and like party time, like enjoy. The dark chocolate, just the regular dark, is about grounding. So the practices are really brief, but they're really meant to knock you conscious so that you can actually eat your food with presence, right? How often have we gotten to the bottom of our ice cream bowl or we finish our meal and we're like, oh shit, that's gone. Like I didn't even eat that. Like I don't like remember the taste of it. Like I didn't enjoy it. I didn't savor it. And so that was really why I created it. I was like, we need to fucking wake us up. I hope it's okay to cuss.
Fuck yeah.
I have a feeling it is. I have a feeling it is. We all need to wake the fuck up to what we're doing, right? Like to having a moment of pleasure every day, whether it's a bite of chocolate or whatever. But it's really just a consciousness piece. And it just happens to be the vehicle to consciousness. In this case is a chocolate bar. So
yeah. And especially with us being so like technology advanced, we're eating and on our phone, we're eating and watching TV and eating and like, and even it's not even just eating. We're living and we're not even being present in what we're doing.
100%. Yeah.
Wow.
The things that we have the tendency to shame ourselves the most for are the things we tend to go like most unconscious around too. Like if we have shame around like pleasure, we're going to go unconscious around it. If we have shame around food, we're going to go unconscious around it. If we have shame around fill in the blank, we're going to go unconscious around it. So I want to bridge that gap and just offer a permission slip or presence around whatever it is. In this case, it's chocolate, but again, anything can be a practice. It's all a mindfulness practice. Making love to your partner can be a practice if you allow it to. Not like, oh shit, I gotta like hurry up, like finish. Like it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
It can all be a practice. And sometimes I totally miss the boat, and it's my own company. It's like I'm there, like I'm in a hurry, and I'm eating, and I'm like, oh shit, I just missed another chance to like fully enjoy this experience.
Yeah. Savor the little moments.
You said something in your TED Talk, and I wrote so many things down because
I did too.
you did too. One of them was everything can be a treat or a treatment. And we have wanted to do an episode on intention behind not just in the psychedelic space, but intention behind, why you're eating what you're eating, intention behind why you're drinking, why you're reaching for a drink. What is the intention behind it? Are you trying to, I'm not a big drinker, but when I do drink, I am drinking because I see the flavor of something and I really want to try that flavor, but I don't want to be drunk and I don't want to be buzzed. The flavors look good. I want to try it. So that's the intention behind why I drink. I'm like, it's just something that I want to experience and I want to enjoy it. My intention is not to get fucked up.
Right.
And I think that there is a huge difference between, it's what they say, like there's no good or bad thing. Like it's the intention behind it. So is that what you were talking about when you were talking about treat versus treatment?
Beautiful question. And thank you for carving out the time to watch the TED Talk. I really appreciate it. Yes. That is exactly what I mean.
Yes.
Anything can bring you closer to yourself or further away from yourself, right? Like you can watch an episode of like Handmaid's Tale and it's like, wow, I really felt something that was really meaningful. Or you can binge watch 7 episodes and you're trying to escape the fact that like your boyfriend just broke up with you and you're really fucking sad, right? Like anything can be a treat or a treatment. Like I can eat a piece of chocolate and it brings me closer to my humanity and I savor it. And it's like, it's delicious. It's like, we're here to have a human experience. Like the whole spiritual beings having a human experience thing. Yes. Don't forget about the human part. Like as spirit, we can't fucking taste the chocolate. As spirit, we can't like fuck the person. As spirit, we can't like do the thing, like do the thing, do it. Just do it consciously. And the treatment is when we're trying to move farther away from ourselves, right? Like we're like, I'm out. This is uncomfortable. I don't want to feel that. I'm sad about how work went today. I'm sad that my mom died. I'm sad that this, that, the other thing. So I am going to drink an entire bottle of wine versus a glass of wine, which is called a spirit for a reason, because it brings out our spirit. So that is the tea too. Like it can be a treat if it's savored. If you're over consuming, then it turns the volume down on your spirit, right? Then you're checking out. But is it moving toward me, moving away from me? Is it a treat because I'm human and I want to experience something amazing or whatever, or complex, or, some people's version of a treat would not be my version of a treat, right?
Right.
Or is it a treatment for something that I just have no interest in experiencing?
Well, and I feel like when we go towards the treatment side of it, where we're looking to escape and we're moving further away from ourselves, you touched a little bit on this, but I I've related so much to all of what you were saying because my husband is newly sober. It's been like 15 or 16 months now, and he is able to be more present. We just went to a music festival this past weekend, and he was like, this is the best memory of a music festival I've ever had, because
Wow,
he was
cool.
sober on mushrooms.
It's a great way to be sober.
Yep.
But also like living in such the moment without focusing on when he was going to be able to get his next drink, or, you know, where all his friends were, because he was sober enough to know where everybody was and where he was, and being mindful of what he was doing, and the connection that we were making together, having this memory together. I don't know. There was so much connecting without disconnecting.
That's the goal.
I feel like when you're using something as a treatment, you are disconnecting not only from yourself, but from the ability to connect with others in a profound way. It's a false connection. I don't know how to explain it, but I could feel it before he got sober. I'm like, all of these connections you have, they are not real. They are not real.
Yeah. Based in alignment, based in the truth of who we are, how we want to feel. Again, it's like they say, you can only meet people as much as you've met yourself. It's the same thing with connection, right? Like you can only connect to people with how connected you are to yourself. How intimate you are with yourself affects how intimate you can be with others. And I don't know who said it first, but intimacy equals into me see. I see myself. I see you. It's allowed. We're allowed to be fully experienced with each other. And yeah, I had a medicine shaman person who said some things make you remember and some things make you forget. And like alcohol makes you forget. Like mushrooms, they make you remember.
Right.
And
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and it's really true. They make you remember who you are. They make you remember to connect. They make you to remember to connect to something even larger than yourself. It's a different experience.
How did you get into this space? Like, how did you get to where you are now? I know there was a journey there.
Oh, for sure.
I know.
Yeah,
There always is.
there always is. Yeah, no one just wakes up. It's like, I'm going to start doing this today.
Right.
Yeah, and no spells, no. Yeah, it was, of course, a puzzle that just kind of continued to come together. By the way, I have to say that my French bulldog is in the room. So if you hear snoring, that's 100% what's happening. I'm not snoring, ladies and gentlemen.
She's like talking and like,
yeah. Oh, full on. It's like he's literally on the bed next to me, and he's just snoring his cute little fucking face off.
That's not me. That's him.
Yeah, I'm not asleep. Yes. So there it is.
It's adorable.
do you have a pig in your bedroom?
It's a little piggy.
I'm like, I tried to get him to go downstairs. He's like, no, I'm near my mom. That's
okay.
That's all good. I'm near mama. So I got into wellness in general because of my own fall down with anorexia. I was about 50 pounds less than I am now.
Wow.
And I was dying in essence. And I could not, I was in the musical theater world. I was a Broadway actress, actually. So I was living in New York, and I was touring around and doing all the things. And that is a great breeding ground to stay sick, because people, there's permission for it. You can work a lot as a super underweight person. And so I needed to take kind of a break from the industry. And I didn't want to be in like the restaurant world, because that's kind of a trigger, right? I was like, I don't want to be like around food all day. Like I'm in my recovery. I don't need to like them be serving like burgers and fries to people. It's like, no. And so I did my yoga teacher training, and I became a yoga teacher. And that was really kind of the first bit on the path. I always say that any eating disorder, any addiction, it's a process of leaving yourself, right? Like it's a it's escape, and it's an act of self-hatred and self-harm,
Yeah.
versus yoga is an act of self-love,
Right.
and it's a means to reconnect with yourself. And so it was a really good first step, because I was a dancer, and so it made a lot of sense for me to like have a movement practice. And from yoga, I ventured into meditation, and then meditation ended up taking me to lead retreats all over the world. And I was leading a retreat in Tulum, and there was a medicine woman at the retreat center, and she was like, you still have a little bit of eating disorder behavior, like I can feel it on you.
Oh, wow.
And like I think I have something for you that could really really help. And she recommended doing an ayahuasca journey. And I it was funny, when I became a yoga teacher, my mentor had come up to me and she said, you are like a very natural teacher, gifted teacher. And for some reason, I feel called to tell you to do ayahuasca. And this was like years before. And she was like, I don't know what that's about, but like it changed my life. And she told me her medicine story, and I was like, that's amazing. Okay, cool, great. Put that away. Like I was like, I don't even know what that is. And then I get to Bloom, and this medicine shaman is telling me I need to do it. And
Wow.
I felt very called. And so I started doing my own research. This wasn't just like a lackadaisical situation. Like I took my first journey very seriously. I stayed in Tulum for an entire month. Um,
Wow.
I worked with this shaman every day for 2 weeks. And then I did the full dieta. It was a Peruvian shaman who flew in from Peru to be in the jungles of Tulum with us. It was like 20 people from all over the world. Very traditional, Icaros, the whole thing. And after the journey, stayed for another 2 weeks to integrate. So I
Wow.
really took my time with it. It was a beautiful way to begin experimenting in the medicine space. For those of you who don't know, ayahuasca is it is a psychedelic. It is the grandmother of psychedelics, and she was very gentle with me. She was like, "Oh, it's your first time." Like,
Mother Iowa's?
yeah, I am. She was so gentle, far more gentle than any other medicine experience I've ever had, actually.
Wow. So was that your
And
first experience with psychedelics? Was
my
ayahuasca?
first experience, yeah, was Aya. And I came back, and my mother had been diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer and was given 6 months to live.
Ah,
And she ended up living for 6 years. But
wow.
we immediately started doing everything we could. I mean, because her cancer was so advanced, there was not really an option to not do chemo, not do like it was so advanced that like it was either she did that stuff alongside all the holistic things.
Mhm.
We did it all. We did all of it. We like flew places to meet like world famous acupuncturists, and we went to other healers. And oh my gosh, we had a session with Dr. Mona Lisa Schultz, who's like a medical intuitive who would like tell her what it was wild. We did all the things. And then one day she woke up and she goes, I'm dying. I really need to do some drugs. She's like, I need to
Oh,
do in a ceremonial context. She's like, I'm reading all these New York Times articles about people who have terminal illness that are making peace with their life through psychedelics. And I
yeah.
would like to be, be familiar. Do you know anyone who's facilitating a journey or anything of that nature? And so through my mother's diagnosis, we started going together to psychedelic journeys in Los Angeles, all over the place. So it was hard because she was sick. So we didn't want to go to Peru or, do anything like that. But we were very blessed to find some incredible facilitators in Los Angeles, doing beautiful intentional medicine. And that was really what put me on the path, was her illness as well. And I've continued since her passing, and
What
it's
a
been
special, like, so special to have that kind of time with her before she passed
oh,
away.
unbelievable. Of course, not everyone is as open to it as she is,
Oh, yeah.
and
We've
but
learned that.
yeah, yeah, for sure, I'm sure. But I'm deeply grateful because there was so much completion in her passing.
Yeah.
There was so much said. There was so much closure. There was so much peace. You know, the day before she died, she just looked at me and she said, "I'm just so not afraid. I'm just so not afraid."
It gives
And
me
it was the
goosebumps.
day after Thanksgiving that she passed away, and she passed away at 7:11 in the morning after a full Thanksgiving dinner. She never spent a day she couldn't talk or walk or, you know, nothing of that nature. And she passed away in her bed at home and had said everything she needed to say. Every family member was there. I mean, it was kind of tough. Like, she went to my dad, and she divorced 20 years before. My dad was there, and she was like, "You were the worst thing that ever happened to me." And the best.
And also
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
And she said, "Thank you so much. But wow, you were a teacher for me." She had to say everything to everyone. That my sister was like, "I know I wasn't the mother you wanted, but like I was the mother you got." You know, she got to say everything.
Wow.
And she died with a lot of completion. It was beautiful.
I was going to say that's a gift. That's such a gift to be able to be. I just heard him. I love that.
Go, wake up, buddy. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was amazing. And part of it, you know, we knew she was leaving, and so she was very conscious and was like, "I would like to just be microdosing, you know, every day so that I can really be as embodied as possible for these last few days of my life." Because that's the thing. It's like, that's what shifts, right? Like, you pass, you leave your body. She's like, "I want to be as in my body as I possibly can and really savor it." I mean, this image, I talked about it in the TED talk of the day before she died. She was sitting by the window drinking coffee, and I could just feel her savor the breeze against her cheek. I could feel her sip the coffee, and just, it was like the most precious thing, because she knew that was it.
Right.
She knew she was leaving. She knew this was like the last time to take a sip of coffee. Like, there was a last sip for her in this body, and she knew it. And so she savored it so preciously, which was why I felt so inspired to continue to create this conversation around these medicines, to create conversations around other things that knock us conscious, because we're all going to go. Like Ram Dass said, we're all just walking each other home. Like, let's just be conscious for the walk, okay? Because it's temporary.
Yeah.
Super, super quick walk.
Absolutely. And it hurts me to think that, like, it has to be an end of a life situation for a lot of people to realize they weren't living, you know. And this is such a small thing, but listening to you talk about her being present while she was drinking the coffee and feeling the outdoors, it's a very strange thing. And I didn't think that it had anything to do with psychedelics until recently. But I have so many videos and photos of sunsets and the sky. And I've been like, we have like a patio furniture set that I hate, I despise, it's not comfortable, and I've been begging for new patio furniture so I could sit outside in the mornings. And I'm like, wait a minute, is that me like enjoying life? and seeing the beauty in like such small things that I used to take for granted, like just like looking at the sky every morning and being like, what a beautiful day. Like, I'm starting to realize that I think that that's one of the gifts that psychedelics has brought to me, is seeing the beauty in every day. So that's so hard for a lot of people.
Well, and I recently had a friend who she just tried a little bit of mushrooms for the first time, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm so aware. Like I feel like very like at peace, like in the water, and I notice the clouds, and I'm really present in the moment with my friends." And I'm like, yeah, it's mushrooms. Fucking awesome.
It's a reconnector. You know, the opposite of remember is not to forget. The opposite of remember means to make separate, to pull apart, to dismember, right? So to remember, it's medicine that makes you remember. It's reintegration of self. It's like, oh wow, yeah, feels good to be in a body.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good to drink that thing. Yeah, it feels good to pet my dog who's finally leaving. Um,
Good morning.
yeah. Go. Say hi. Um, it's a remembrance medicine, and it's beautiful.
One of the things that did happen to me over the weekend because we were at this festival, my husband has said before that like when he takes mushrooms or MDMA or whatever we're doing, it quiets the noise. And I've always felt that. I'm like, yeah, it does. It quiets the noise. But then coming home to like a silent house with my kids gone, it was almost too quiet. I was like, but I can see how that can help one become closer to themselves because there's nothing else. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
I felt I've never been in that setting on mushrooms. I've always been doing it with an intention of healing or not coming home to a silent house, but it was almost like, is this what meditating feels like? I can't even form a thought. It won't even stay because my mind is so quiet. Like nothing is like sticking. It's just
Yeah.
floating away.
Wow.
Is that
Wow.
what you meditate though? I can't. Is that what that feels like for you?
I mean, every meditation is different. I totally get what you're talking about. Like the story isn't there, right? Like
Yeah.
the stories and the stuff that kind of gets in the way of presence
Yes.
is not there after a mushroom experience. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that that's kind of the goal of meditation is like not necessarily to quiet the mind, but to just be at peace with whatever's there. Like
Yeah.
I always say that meditation is a tool for being able to like sit with what is, right? Because life is filled with exquisite and excruciating moments, and meditation buys us time between stimulus and response. So the more we spend time with ourselves, the more we learn to sit with the sensations that arise, then we can sit in that uncomfortable conversation in our life. We can sit with ourselves without wanting to escape when our mom dies. We can sit with whatever, right? So yes, that spaciousness of mind, amazing. And sometimes you get there in meditation. I feel like 100% of the time I get there with psychedelics.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was like, that was okay. I can do that.
Cool.
It's like the
Totally.
catalyst to getting there with meditation. It's much harder for me. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I really feel like there's a recipe to healing, and I know it looks different for everyone, and I know that the catalyst is always different for everyone, but it seems to me that a lot of it, you had to like put it all in a bowl. There's like number one, self-awareness is one of the biggest things. We just talked about that, Christine and I. Another thing would be mindfulness. And
Oh.
intention is another thing. Like, what else would you put into that bowl?
Oh my God. I think presence is the great healer of all things,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're anxious, get present. If you're like reminiscing about that thing that happened 10 years ago and you're in pain about it, like get present with what's happening now. If you want to heal your relationship to your partner, get present with them. If you want to heal your relationship to food, get present around it. It's like everything can be healed with a greater sense of presence. So yes, awareness, intention, mindfulness, not a full mind, but mindfulness, being in your body, embodiment. We cannot think a feeling, we can feel a feeling. So we have to be in our body in order to experience our life, right? Like I can eat some food and be like, wow, that's really good. Or I can drop into the center of my heart and I can eat that food and it's like nirvana, right? And that's one of the beautiful things about medicine is it gets you out of your head. It's sad because there's still so much stigma around it. People are finally waking up to the profundity of this medicine, but it's like, oh, it gets you out of your mind. That's a good thing.
Right.
like,
Right.
like we want you in your body actually, because that's where we live most authentically. If we can get our heart to think and our mind to feel, that's a whole different thing. Then we're actually working in tandem, right?
Oh, wow.
But we are spending so much time up here. Like, have you ever talked to somebody who's like, it's all here. They're like disconnected. They're like totally proprioceptively bereft.
Yes.
We want the connection and the correlation. So embodiment, because most of us are spending so much time because we're so anxious up here, that if we can drop into the center of ourselves, oh my God. And people don't know how to listen to their knowing, or their gnosis, if you will. And that's because we're not in our body. Intuition doesn't happen up here. Intuition happens here. We've all said or heard someone say like, oh, I have a bad feeling about this. Like that's because they're listening to their body. I have a bad feeling, my stomach, wow, this is giving me a tummy ache. Like that comes from the body. So embodiment for sure. Ritual. Honestly, ritual is what creates a life of discernment. It's what creates a life of self-love. Like I have rituals that I do every day, not in like a kind of OCD way, in like a, oh, it's time for me to connect to myself way. Like this is my practice in connection. Like I wake up every morning, I sage my house, I journal what I'm grateful for, I drink my coffee, I pet my dog. Like these are the rituals. They don't have to be like, oh, I'm getting weird and like doing a ritual. Like, no, it could be anything. I mean, that's why it's rich chocolate rituals, right? Like it's a ritual. Like every day when you're done with your meal or you're having a snack between, like it's a daily ritual of presence and pleasure. So it doesn't have to be hard to do. It just needs to be a ritual. I was talking about this on Instagram the other day. Like if you did what you're doing today, every day for the next year, would you be where you wanted to be next year? Because like we all think like, oh, next year I'll be this. And it's like, cool, but like how do you get there? Like you have to have things in place that allow you to move forward and to press forward with presence in order to get to where you want to be. Like, oh, I want to be a published author. Cool. But are you carving out like 30 minutes a day to write your book? Or like, oh, cool, I want to be an entrepreneur, but like, are you building your website? Like it's not all woo woo. Like it's these rituals also get us to where we want to go on like a very foundational cognitive level.
And oftentimes people who aren't open to this kind of space, they just kind of like brush you off like, well, weirdo, woo
woo.
Right. Yeah. And it's so much deeper than that.
Well, and I hear you saying, if you said ritual to someone who maybe isn't in this space, that probably throws them off. And I think maybe they think that it's routine. I am hearing you in a very different way. Yeah. Like a ritual is not a routine. It's not the same thing, but it's something that you're doing to connect with yourself.
Yeah.
Bingo. A ritual comes from a place of embodiment. It comes from a place of like, oh, I'm connecting. I'm moving toward where I want to go in a very aligned way, versus a routine feels more like up here, feels a little bit more cognitive, feels a little bit more like I'm going through the motions to get to where I want to go, versus like I'm syncing up with myself. And I am, one feels like an act of like a drill sergeant, and one feels like the act of someone who loves themselves.
Well, and I also think routine is very, on a subconscious level. Like you wake up, you brush your teeth. Like sometimes you're like, did I brush my teeth this morning? Like, did I? Because you weren't fully present with that routine. You were just doing it because your body and your mind do it every single day. So I think there's a deep connection there. Speaking of connection, you said this and it like blew my mind too. I'm like, we're going to keep going in circles here. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection.
For sure.
So good.
And I felt that. And I don't even think that it's, I've talked about it before in an episode about my husband and the sobriety and just not feeling connected and seeking that false connection. But what I realized is it wasn't a false connection with anybody else. It was a loss of connection within him. And I've said this even before, not about connection, but, loving someone. After my first psychedelic experience, I wrote him a letter and I said, I didn't even know how to love you. And I didn't know how to love our kids because I didn't know how to love myself. This is going to be different now. I'm learning to love myself. And by doing that and connecting with myself, I am learning to love you deeper. I am loving my kids deeper. I'm loving other people on a deeper level, because how can you connect with someone if you're not connected with yourself? How can you love someone if you're not loving yourself? How can you forgive someone if you don't forgive yourself? Like, it all stems to that. It goes back to that connection with self in such a profound way.
Always. And it's funny because we become like these hungry little ghosts. When we're disconnected from ourselves, we go, oh, I'll get it over there. I'll find it through that partner. I'll find it through that job. I'll find it through that fuck. I'll find it through that thing to eat. I'll find it through this drink. Right.
Yeah.
So then we're going, oh, someone else. The problem with when we put our sense of connection or our sense of worth or our sense of love in someone or something outside of ourselves, it can be taken away. Versus when it comes from us,
Can't be.
you can leave, you can die, you can blah, blah, blah. Yes, it's sad. All of that's sad, but I'm okay. I'm right here. I'm connected to myself no matter what happens, because I cannot control any of that.
Right.
I can control none of it, but I can absolutely control how I respond. I can control how I stay with myself, right? Self-abandonment is the worst type of abandonment. We all have abandonment issues. We all had a parent that went to work too long, or a teacher that didn't show up for us, or like, we all have our version of abandonment, right? But the big abandonment is the abandonment that we leave ourselves, that we abandon the most innate part of ourselves, that we abandon our inner child, that we abandon ourselves, particularly when the shit hits the fan, because that's when we want to abandon ourselves the most, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So connection to ourselves is how we stay true.
You've said so many profound things, but another one that I have is and another one is in your TED Talk when you said, "It's just like this for now."
It's
So good. Can you elaborate on that?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, that is the permission slip to stay. Like, I think most of us self-abandon, and most of us don't feel what we need to feel because we're afraid that it's going to last forever. And
Yeah.
most of us don't allow ourselves to lean into pleasure because we know that it's fleeting, right? So we don't even experience it at all because we're so busy waiting for the other shoe to drop that we just go, oh, I don't even quick, eat it fast. Quick, do this fast. Because then when it's over, I'm going to be so sad. So to remember, on both sides of the spectrum, whether exquisite or excruciating, it's just like this for now, whatever it is. If it's hard, be with it, because it's just like this for now. And the only way out of anything is through, right? The only way out of heartbreak is through. The only way out of grief is through. The only way out of loss is through it. If we want to heal it, we got to feel it, period. And when it's really good, when it's deeply meaningful, and we want to go, oh God, this is so good, it almost hurts. Like, oh fuck, I didn't know I could love you this much. I didn't know. So we kind of check out, right? We're like, oh God, distract.
Yeah.
Right? We do that because we're like, this is a lot of sensation. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know if I can sit with this. It's so
Right.
good. So we don't allow ourselves sit with it anyway, because it will leave. It's just like this for now. So do it, all of it. You have survived 100% of the sensations you've allowed yourself to feel, whether really good or really bad, really loving or really fearful, whatever it is, you've survived 100%. Those are fantastic odds. Any baseball player would be like,
Sign me up.
yeah, 100%. I mean, whoa, 10 out of 10. So it's just like this for now is my mantra when I get a sensation in either end of the spectrum. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's really, really good. Whoa, that's really scary. It's really, really good. Breathe. It's just like this for now. Just fully embody it, fully experience it, fully lean into it, fully taste it, fully smell it, fully see it, fully do it fully, all of it, because it's just like this for now. And in those moments of tears and tragedy and, oh my God, I'm so sad and I'm so scared. And oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I want to drink. I want to go. Be with it. Breathe with it. Be with it. The only way out is through. It's just like this for now.
Yeah, and most of us are scared of that contrast.
Yeah, right? Like the stuff in the middle, we're like, okay, cool.
Right.
But like those ones, the
Right.
big pendulum swings,
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
I learned something a few weeks ago, and it made sense to me, but I didn't know that this was an actual thing. But the word emotion, it just means energy in motion. Like it is just your emotions trying to move through you, and we try to stop them.
Oh yeah. Which is how we get sick.
Yes. And so with what you're saying, it's just like this for now. I feel like I want to go up and hug everybody I know who's like hurting like, and say, it's just like this right now. Like feel whatever you need to feel. Stop trying to force yourself to not feel it. Stop trying to drink it away. Stop trying to eat it away. Just feel it and let it move through you. And it's almost like this practice of surrender. Like whenever you're surrendering to the feeling and you allow it to move through you, it goes away. It doesn't stay there forever.
Exactly right. Resistance is what keeps it there.
Yes.
That's the problem, right? Like the more we've all heard what we resist persists, like that's what makes it linger.
Yeah.
Is that resistance to it, that, oh, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. So then it stays. The issues are in the tissues. It stays in the body.
The issues are in the tissues. I love that.
Always in the tissues, y'all. Like Bessel van der Kolk's book, the body keeps the score, right? Like the body does indeed keep the score. It lives in the body until we allow ourselves to feel it. That's why sometimes when we do medicine journeys, there's a purge or there's some sort of release of sensation or emotion. We process something and we shake, or we have some sort of a physical experience because something is being purged. In order for us to heal what we need to heal. Something needs to be let go of. The resistance needs to drop.
Why do you think as people that we are so resistant to feeling those feelings?
Oh my God. So many reasons. I think we live in a culture of stoicism, where it's like we don't want to show, well, fill in the blank. Vulnerability is
brave.
Well, that's because you've done your work.
Oh, to me, it's brave.
Yeah, it is the most brave. You're exactly right. But for many people, vulnerability is weakness.
Yes.
Right. So it's like, fuck yeah. Thank you for that truth. But for so many, that's how they see it. Vulnerability is weakness. Like, oh, if I show that I'm sad doing this thing, then like I'm weak. And like from a physiological level, from a biological level, like that equals imminent death, right? Like, oh, you're weaker than me. If I need to kill you, I can. So I think there's a thing, I think it goes back to our biology, like stiff upper lip, brave, power through, keep going. I think there's an aspect to that. The good stuff, that's confusing to me. I think it's a fear of loss. I think we don't want to lean into it because it's like, if it's so good, we won't be able to handle it when it's bad.
Yeah.
Brene
like you're
Brown
waiting on the shoe to drop.
Waiting for the shoe to drop. Brene Brown talks about an example of her tucking her children into bed. And it's like the sweetest, most beautiful thing she's ever seen. And they're asleep and she's looking at them lovingly. And all of a sudden she'll get an image of her children being hit by a car. And it's almost like pulling yourself out of the moment to prepare to beat the vulnerability to the punch. So that if something tragic happens, you think, oh, I've already lived that in my head. It won't kill me. But the truth is there's no way to prepare for the slings and arrows of life. Yeah. So we just have to be present for it.
We were talking about surrendering earlier because somebody we know just recently did a mushroom journey and they were resisting and it was very uncomfortable. And that happened with Christine her first time. Like,
sure did.
When you are resisting it, have you ever experienced that, resisting the medicine?
100%.
It's such a mirror for life and for surrender because it gets really ugly when you're trying to fight it.
And the thing is with mushrooms is even though I was resisting it, I can't escape it. Like,
No.
bitch, you're in it. Like, just get fucking in
Yeah.
it. Like, you
All
ain't
the
getting
way.
out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. But it is funny. And it's funny how resistance shows up, even when you're like consciously like, no, I want to do this.
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, I was
Want it.
so like I was so down right away. But then it's like I did it and I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I
Yeah.
can do this. And I don't think I was even really aware that I was resisting as much as I was. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, isn't that wild? And were you just so nauseous and so
Yep.
like, was it physical? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable.
Yep. And just scared. And it was the anxiety of, well, what if I see this? And what if I go back to this really scary place and this trauma and then this abuse? And I'm not going to be able to take it instead of just being present and surrendering.
Yes. And that's the other thing, that presence is the antidote to all of that. Presence is surrender too.
Yeah.
You know, like here I am. I'm not thinking about what may or may not happen in the future. I'm just right here with what it is. I'm just going to breathe into it. And that's the beautiful thing is we actually have a tool for presence anytime, anywhere. It's happening in every moment. The first thing we ever did upon entering this planet was breathe.
Right.
And it's going to stay with us until we take our last breath, until we leave this body.
Yeah.
And so whenever we find ourselves in resistance, we can find presence through the breath. We can just follow the inhale, the exhale, and that little moment of nothing in between, which in itself is kind of a life cycle, right?
Yeah.
There's an inhalation. We take in all of life. We meet it at the zenith, the height, and then we slowly decline and it comes to nothing. And then there's a moment of pause. And then again, we inhale and we go to the top and then we start to exhale, right? It's like everything is a microcosm to the macrocosm.
Yeah. Wow.
Really wild.
I could talk to you all fucking day, man.
I know. I want to, gosh, we don't have a ton of time, but I started watching some of your breath work on your
Yes.
Instagram.
Yeah.
You do these lives, and do you schedule them? Like, how often do you do a session, like a little mini session like that? Because I want to join in on the next one.
Oh my God, you're such an angel. Both of you are so great. And I could talk to you both all day too. I don't. I do them sporadically. I
Okay.
do have a site that people can subscribe to that it's pay what you can. So you could literally pay $1 a month and you get breath work and some yoga and all sorts of fun things that help you connect to yourself. That's really all it
And your
is.
journal
It's like,
entries, your journal prompts. Yeah.
journal prompts, things like that help you kind of have introspection. So there's that. The link is in my bio on my Instagram. It's on guideness.com. Or
And we'll link it.
guidance.co.
We'll link it too.
Yeah.
That
For
would be
listeners.
awesome. But then on Instagram, of course, I just go on there when I'm feeling it. Or honestly, I go on when I need to connect to myself. I do breath work every day, but sometimes I need 2 or 3 times a day if I'm feeling in it, if I'm feeling anxious or whatever, right? So I'll often go on for me. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
if I'm going on for me, it's holding me accountable to doing this practice at 2 p.m. or whenever it is. And people show up. And it's really great because it then allows me to feel connected to everyone else in the community. And so, yeah, I don't have a schedule, but I do love to just pop
Yeah.
on Instagram and offer up a few moments of breath.
And a lot of people who are scared to do psychedelics because they feel like they're, doing a drug and doing something illegal, they can absolutely turn to breath work and still have those experiences. Leah and I, we went to an event and we both had these mini breathwork sessions, and it was 12, 15 minutes, and
Yeah.
both of us could start to feel like we were getting ready to have an out-of-body experience.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, what the fuck? That was 12 minutes
Of breathing.
of breathing.
Like breathing a breath. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Holotropic breath work will take you there so quickly. It's amazing. The mind is,
It's
um,
wild.
oh, it's wild. Yeah, it's super wild. And it's nice to have that tool. I mean, imagine dropping into 5 minutes of that before you get into it with your partner, before you go in for that meeting with your boss, before you get on the road for a 6-hour drive, like just getting present, rich with presence before you go into something that is going to be important. carving out the time for that connection to self is profound. And that breath work can really, really take us there quick.
And it doesn't have to be an hour. Because after that mini session, a week later, I did an hour-long one in Sedona. That was wild. But I don't think I realized that you could do smaller sessions.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love a good like deep one every once in a while, but like no, I do like 12 minutes of breath work.
That sounds more like something I would be willing to do on a daily basis. Totally. I don't know if I want to go.
Yeah. Still have resistance to it too. Like every day I'm like, oh shit, here it goes. Okay, go. Like,
because can you set an intention when you do that? Or is it just kind of like, you don't even know what's going to come up, but something might come up that you have no control over?
I often do set an intention beforehand. And if I don't set one beforehand and I get some sort of information from the breath, I then will kind of meditate for a few minutes on that. And just set my for the day. Often I set my intention for the day while I sage my house.
I love that.
That's kind of my fun ritual to like, okay, I'm clearing out yesterday's stuff. It's like you can't be clean off of yesterday's shower. My friend Lauren tells us that all the time. And it's very real. It's like, it's the same thing with the house. I'm like, get rid of that old vibe. It's the same thing with meditation or breath work. Like, it's just creating that space every day to connect.
Yes.
Because there's so many reasons to disconnect.
And we have so many ways to disconnect, like,
especially now.
Yeah. An abundance.
Trying to get my kids to not be on their phones after COVID for 2 years has been
God, that is
unreal.
That's a feat. Yeah, no, that is very, very real.
But I was watching listening to a podcast that was talking about how to teach our kids. We had to have a conversation with my 14-year-old last night. Like, how is being on your phone this much serving you? Instead of punishing him for it, we're making him sit down and say, how are you going to further yourself by being on your phone this much? How is it hurting your schoolwork? How is it hurting your time with your family?
Wow.
And that was pretty incredible because I've always been like the mom who punishes, and not all the time. I'm not saying I'm a bad mom,
no, of course.
But I'm like, ooh, make him think about this.
Yeah.
Instead of me constantly telling him how bad it is to be on your phone all the time when I'm on my phone.
Right.
But I'm like, but I'm on it for work. Like, this is different.
Yeah.
Right.
But
no, that's really beautiful how inclusive you just made that.
I think I'm going to go back to presence here because that seems to be the theme of this episode. Like, that's going to be the name of this one. Just asking him where he is in those moments. Are you present? Are you in your schoolwork? Are you doing your schoolwork? Are you looking for the next dopamine hit? Where are you when you're in your phone?
Are you still connected to yourself, or are you disconnected from yourself?
Yes, that's a really hard conversation to have with a 14-year-old.
Right. Was he responsive to that?
I feel like it was better than the resistance I get when I punish.
Yeah.
That's real.
Because we take his phone away a lot, and there's a lot of resistance and pushback there. Yeah. And there wasn't a lot of resistance here. It was almost kind of like I could see the gears working. Yeah. I was like, ooh.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to work.
Some things make us open and some things make us close. And so to like include, right? Like, I want to know more about like this relationship to this phone. Like, explain it to me. Like, I really want to understand versus like, nope, just taking it away.
Yeah. That's exactly what it felt like. I was like including him in this moment of, tell me where you are in this.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's some parenting advice out there too.
Well done.
There you go. Teenage parents. Okay. So one last thing. We have a question we always ask everybody. I feel like you've already we just started asking everybody. I want to close out with this. Yeah. If you could take one thing away from your psychedelic experiences that you would share with everybody, the one thing that would maybe get someone to change their mind about what this medicine does, what would that be?
If I could take one thing away, like as in like take something out, or as in like a takeaway?
Like a lesson.
A lesson.
Like, what has the medicine taught you that you would want to share with the world?
So many things. Every single time it's different. I think the thing that the medicine has taught me the most profoundly is that life is to be experienced in the body.
Yeah.
And that the more intimate we are with ourselves, the more intimate we are with life. And it all comes down to how much presence we bring to everything, to our whole experience. And that we're connected to everything and everyone.
Yeah.
And so when you are, right, when you are acting out of alignment with someone or something, you're acting out of alignment with yourself. And when you're acting in alignment with yourself, you're acting in alignment with others. It's a direct reflection. It's all working together. It's all working in tandem. And it's optional, right?
Yeah.
Medicine is optional.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone, but look at your conditioning, look at what people around you have told you, and really feel into it. Like, does that really feel authentic, or are these just kind of stories that I've heard through our government, through fill in the blank? Because there's a lot of stories out there that
Teachers,
are just untrue.
parents,
Totally.
churches.
So much.
Yeah, I was just having some of these conversations with, people who I love very, very dearly, but there is a little bit of a resistance to new information, or maybe the fact that maybe we were programmed to think a certain way or believe a certain way, and maybe that's something that we should question.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's some really great books out there and really beautiful documentaries out there. A really good book that helped me and my mom was a book by Dr. Julie Holland called Good Chemistry. And she talks a lot about psychedelic use in microdoses, in full doses, heroes doses for different types of treatment. And coming at it from a very scientific lens.
Yeah.
So there's a lot out there that if you're one of those very cognitive in the head people, then you need to really do your research before dropping in. It's a really good place to start.
I love that. That's a book I don't have yet.
I've never even
on
heard
my
of it.
list now.
All right.
I will report back. And let our listeners know how to find you really quick. Where you are on Instagram, your website, and your chocolate.
Yes.
Yay. Thank you both so much for having
you.
such a beautiful and meaningful conversation today.
Thank
I'm
you.
really honored. Thank you. You can find me on Instagram at Alexa, Alexa Silvaggio, Silvaggio. I'm also on TikTok under Alexa D Silvaggio. Same thing, just with a D in the middle. D stands for Dominique. Alexa D Silvaggio. And then you can find the chocolate at ritchrituals.com, and it's RITCH, like rituals. So ritchrituals.com, and be sure to get your hands on some mindfulness, on some presence, on some pleasure. And I'd love to connect with you all.
Yes. Thank you so much for
everything
amazing. Today. And Christine, you want to close this out?
Yep. Thank you all for listening. Go ahead and find us. See you on the other side. And we'll just do that. See you on the other side.
See you on the other side.
Bye.